our good friends and sponsors of this conference. We are all, as publishers, aware now of the need to base editorial and business decisions on solid data and to draw on that data when designing strategies for reader engagement and for revenue growth. That's the case even if data isn't our strongest skill set. And our next two speakers will give a live demonstration of Google's brilliant News Consumers Insights tool, which gives users personalized and actionable recommendations based on your Google Analytics data. So our two speakers are Antao Diaz, who's head of News Consumer Insights at Google, and Valentin Cornez, who is the co-founder of News Consumer Insights. So gentlemen, over to you.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hear me well?
Yep.
Yes, hi, perfect. So nice to meet you all. I'm very glad to be with you all today. I guess today we're gonna discuss one tool in particular that we built. It's called News Consumer Insights. For those who don't know our team, basically what we do is we build tools and data framework for the news industry. We are part of the Google News Initiative. So we built this tool a couple of years ago to help partners turn data into business recommendation. So this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you the tool. I'm going to hopefully give you a glimpse of what you could do with the tool if you access this tomorrow. One thing I really like to mention is the tool is free for news publishers. All publishers can use that tool as long as you're working with Google Analytics. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully it's going to work. You're here.
Yes, I just joined.
Wonderful. And Antao, yes, you want to
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. Thanks. So nice to meet you all. We're very happy to be here. You can see some hesitation between Valentin and myself. I'm currently based on the East Coast of the United States. So it's very early, and not only that, but the new normal is that my computer and my Wi-Fi, of course, I'm not collaborating. So it's been a tough morning, but I'm very happy to be here. If you want, Val, I'll take on the demo, and you can back me up if it crashes again. But as Valentin clearly mentioned in his introduction, our role at Google and the work that we've been doing is all focused on turning data into action. The short introduction is that we've came to a certain type of conclusions about 3 years ago. And that very simple conclusion is that we believe that data likes actionability or just action by default. And by that, I mean, for example, I like to echo and focus on the amount of times where, for example, in your companies or at a business meeting, or even maybe in your personal lives, you've looked at a specific graph and that specific graph, kind of led you to the so what question, right? It's an interesting insight, but what do I do with this data point? What do I do with this graph? What is the data actually telling me to do, or what should I be modifying on my site or across my audience? So what we came out to create about, once again, 3-4 years ago is an actionable tool, a tool that provides actionable recommendations for news organizations around the world. And those recommendations have two purposes: grow reader engagement, so make your readers come back and make your readers stay longer on your news site, to drive essentially more reader revenue. Now that I know that probably sounds a little bit very little tangible at this stage. So as Val was saying, what we'll do is I'm going to share my screen. We're going to continue just with a very simple introduction. We only have one slide on this webinar, and then we'll focus on the live demo of the tool. Now, give me just a second. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, Val, can you see my screen?
Perfect. Yes, I can.
Excellent. So Let's go with this slide that I'd like to discuss with all of you. And that slide has only one purpose. It's kind of like to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So there are no misconceptions or misunderstandings on where we're coming from. Now let's simplify to an extreme, right? If you are a news organization, what is your business performance a factor of, right? What are the things that clearly define and impact your business performance? Now, this is going to be a simplification, but essentially on one end, you have advertising revenue, right? Advertising revenue is most probably, and by advertising revenue, I mean all type of advertising revenue. It's most probably, if not the main revenue source, one of the key drivers of your business performance. On the right-hand side, you have what we call reader revenue. And by reader revenue, we talk about the business model that can include subscriptions, contribution, membership, everything that's not ad revenue, essentially. We believe that as simple, once again, this is a simplification, but as simple as that kind of defines the news business performance. So let's go a step lower to see like what are they factors do you drive ad revenue and how do you drive reader revenue? When very simply, your ad revenue is essentially a consequence and a factor of your advertising strategy, right? You define your advertising strategy, which might lead you to recruit a yield management team for everything regarding programmatic and a sales team for your direct sales, how you improve and how you impact your ad revenue. On the right-hand side, on reader revenue, what are the things that will drive reader revenue? Well, there's things like obviously values and content, right? Whatever your content is and whatever your values are, they need to be set so your readers can identify themselves with your values and with your content. Of course, pricing. How you price either your contribution or membership model or your subscription model definitely has a clear impact on your ability to drive more or less reader revenue. And finally, packaging. And by packaging, it's probably a better word for it, it's probably more marketing. By packaging, how are you packaging and creating your subscription options or your membership options, right? Do you put anytime cancellation? Do you put print only, digital only? So all of those things essentially have an impact on how you're selling and how you're performing wise on reader revenue. So here, the point being, okay, let's take it even a step further. What's before all of that? Well, on the left-hand side, your advertising strategy is completely meaningless if you don't have ad impressions and page views, right? The first thing you need to show ads are page views. So you can create an ad impression, and then you can define automatically and very strategically what you'll do with that ad impression. If you'll, how do you apply your advertising strategy? So the source of it all, it is your page views. Now, on the right-hand side, on the reader revenue piece, it's all about loyalty and emotional bond. By loyalty and emotional bond, what I mean potentially is, if I don't know who you are, if I don't know what you stand for, if I've never seen your content, I've never read any specific article, you can have all of the, the best pricing strategy in the world. It's really hard for me to potentially think about contributing or subscribing, right? So that piece on loyalty and emotional bond, and that's very us vision on what drives reader revenue. So it's completely fine if you don't necessarily agree with it. That's what our experience has proven. But we believe that's where reader revenue strategy starts at, right? If you don't have loyal users, if you don't have emotional bond, we believe that you won't be driving more reader revenue. So those two things, we believe, are the starting points. But here's the thing, and here's the kick. Both of them essentially aim towards reader engagement, right? And by reader engagement, I mean visit frequency and visit depth. So making your users come back to the site, visit depth, and making your users, once they are on your site, stay longer and read more content, that's visit depth, right? So those two things we believe are the backbone, or reader engagement is the backbone of both of those business models, because when you're making your users come back and you're making your users read more content and stay longer on the site, you're clearly increasing page views, which is one thing, but also you're clearly increasing loyalty, right? So they're one and the same, and that's what that in the start, but this is the long introductions punchline. This is why 4 years ago, we set to create something that can inform reader engagement, because we believe that by focusing on reader engagement, essentially, you'll be hitting and impacting your core business models that are and can be ad revenue and reader revenue, right? If you don't have one or the other, it doesn't really matter. Reader engagement will still impact whatever you have on your site. So this was a long and clumsy intro. Once again, apologies. It's 7 in the morning here in the US, but we really wanted to make sure everyone is at least has an image of how we perceive things. So now let's move on to something a bit more entertaining. Let's move on to the tools, right? So I'm gonna remove this presentation. I'm gonna get the Zoom bar out of my way and focus on this. There you go. So you can see the URL here, right? I would invite you to keep it. It's this one, goo.gle/datatools. It will take you to, I mean, the full URL. And you will find our tools that were created specifically and exclusively for the news industry and for news organization. You'll find them all here. Now, here they are. We have News Consumer Insight, which is the one that I'll primarily show you in the interest of time, real-time content insights, and news tagging guide. Now, I'll describe each very easily. News Consumer Insights is the one that we've been, hinting at. It's the one that allows you to obtain concrete and actionable recommendations on how to grow engagement and reader engagement on your site, right? On how to make users come back, and how do you make users stay longer. That's all about News Consumer Insights, and that's the one I'll show you. Real-time content insight is all about getting insights to allow you to optimize your content performance in real time. So essentially, in real time, to be able to see how your content is doing on your site and what users are interested around the web, what's trending, and get potential ideas on content creation and content distribution. Finally, news tagging guide, that's all about optimizing your data strategy. So making sure you are measuring what you need to measure as a news organization and simplifying the technical process. That tool specifically powers all of the other two. It's a bit more technical, so that's why we'll see if we have time. Let's focus on News Consumer Insights. Now, I've been saying a lot, getting actionable recommendations and driving engagement, driving reader revenue. The truth is, we've been around for a while now. We've been around for 3-4 years. We've published more than 13 case studies showing and proving reader revenue impact, reader engagement impact. You can see them here in Asia. We have Rappler in the Philippines and Jagran in India, which is here. But you'll also find other type of players like WIL.com. It's a small local broadcaster in the US. Lee Enterprises, there are regional local news. What I love about the case studies on Lee Enterprises is that they've tripled their digital subscriptions just by using NCI, News Consumer Insights. And that specific impact, that triplication, or is that a word? I don't know. Let's say it's a word. So they've multiplied their digital subscriptions by 3 at 0 cost. And you'll see, I mean, if you read the case study, you'll see I'm barely using any Google product. Business Insider, similar story. They grew their subscription business by 150%. In 1 quarter. Yes, that's 150% subscription revenue growth in 6 months. Sorry, not 1 quarter. Once again, at 0 cost and just by focusing on the right reader engagement. We've made our best to write these case studies in a very practical way. So I really invite you to take a look at them, which they are in the tool. Okay, so let's open the tool together and let's discover what this is all about. Now, for the demo, let's assume that I'm not a Google employee. Let's assume that I'm actually a news publisher. That will make it easier for me to show you how to use news consumer insights that I'll refer from now on as NCI. Now, the way it works is as follow. Val, call me out if it's not big enough on the screen, and I'll zoom in.
That's perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to click on this button, authorize your account, right? I'm going to click on my personal Gmail, right? I'm essentially letting the tool get access to my Google account, right? When I do so, I'm not sharing anything with Google. I'm not sharing anything with us. It's just for me and my usage of the tool right now. When I click the window, everything will be deleted. And you see, the way it works is I'm supposed to click on this button here, right? Click to select your data. And when I do, my Google Analytics account will appear. I can select my Google Analytics account and only my Google Analytics account because that's the one I have access to. The tool will update and refresh based on my data. So essentially that's how we customize the experience. You just come, connect your Google Analytics account. Once again, you're not sharing anything with Google or with us. When you do, it's only with the tool and no one else has access to it. The data is not stored, collected, or shared. When you close the window, everything is deleted, but we'll be able to take your Google Analytics data and customize it, right, with whatever we have to say about your data. So I'm going to use the demo data, right? I'm not going to connect a real Google Analytics account, so you can see what the tool does. Now, you'll see on the left, we actually have 4 pages: actionable recommendations, reader engagement, reader revenue, video insights. In the interest of time, I won't be able to show them, to show you all the different pages. So I'm going to focus on the first one and try to show you the second one. As you can see, the start of the journey is with your actionable recommendation. Once again, although we're talking about data, what we mentioned in our introduction is that News Consumer Insight, NCI, is all about giving you personalized, actionable recommendations. Now, let's scroll down a little bit. And you'll see that the first thing that the tool does is that it's going to split your data in 3. It's going to split your data and your audience, right? Your Google Analytics data. And this can be, by the way, this works with the free version of Google Analytics and the 360 version. It doesn't really matter. So the first thing we do is we take your audience, your users across the last 30 days, and we split them into casual readers, loyal readers, and brand lovers. A casual reader is someone who came once across the last 30 days. A loyal reader is someone who came at least twice across the last 30 days, right? So at least 2 visits across the last 30 days. And the brand lover is someone who came more than 15 times across the last 30 days. And you can see what the tool is doing is that it's splitting my audience based on those definitions. So for example, 80% of my total readers are casual readers. They only came once across the last 30 days. 90% of my total readers are loyal readers. They came at least, 90% of my total readers came at least twice across the last 30 days, and 1% of my total readers, and only 1%, are brand lovers. So only 1% visited my site more than 15 times, or at least 15 times across the last 30 days. Now, we don't even need to read the rest. We can focus on the card here. The card is meant to be dynamic, and it's here to help you digest the info. So let's discover it together. It says, your, so my, loyal readers and brand lovers represent 20% of your audience, right? So 19 plus 1. That's correct. For me and my site and my data, that's 20%. When you connect your account, who knows what it will be. So they represent 20% of my audience. They drive 80% of my page views and 85% of my ad revenue. Essentially, my loyal readers, and you can see it here, 90% of my total readers, but 60% of my total pages, right? My brand lovers, 1% of my total readers, but 20% of my total pages. And I'm pretty sure this specific structure that I'm seeing here on my site is very true on your site too. Essentially, 20% of my audience is driving all of the value, right? Or most of the value. And the punchline here is that, well, I need to grow my reader engagement to push my casual readers down the funnel. I need to transform those 80% of my audience, those casual readers, into loyal readers and brand lovers, right? I need to make them come back to my site, and I need to help them stay longer. So the question here becomes, you know, maybe for a few of you, but how do I get there? How do I do that? Because clearly that's what I need to do. Well, you can see that what the tool has, if I scroll down, you can see it says 8 recommendations to help you improve reader engagement. Now, this is the secret sauce of News Consumer Insights. We have a decision engine in the background, and the decision engine is essentially doing a diagnostic of my data. It does a diagnostic of all of the Google Analytics data that you've provided to essentially surface actionable recommendations for you and you only and your site. So this could have been of 8, a 6, a 5, a 4, a 2. This is just for me and my demo account. I have 8 recommendations. Now we're not going to look at them all, but I just want to show you that just like we have 8 recommendations to help you improve reader engagement, if I scroll down, we have 7 recommendations to help you improve reader revenue, how to drive more subscriptions and membership, and 3 recommendations to help you capture better data, right? So to improve your strategy on what you should be measuring. Now let's go back to the reader engagement. So as I said, 8 recommendations to help you improve reader engagement. And you can see the split between you need more visits and you need longer visits. So you just need that visit frequency, depth, and you need frequency, sorry, and you need longer visit, that visit depth point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, those are the first 4 recommendations, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see there's things that, you know, are very direct. For example, your newsletter traffic is low. That's the first recommendation, right? Apparently my newsletter traffic is low. 2, you should offer web push notifications to your users. For example, 5, the recommendation number 5 under longer visits, your page load time is high. Or 6, you should improve your recirculation. By recirculation, we mean taking your readers from one article to another, because apparently they're not reading enough every time they come. And many of you might be thinking, okay, that's more of a conclusion than a recommendation. The conclusion shows up when you click on it. So for example, your newsletter traffic is low. That's something that I need to fix. So if I click on this, I'll see a screenshot, right? You can see, actually, let me maybe zoom out a little bit so it's a bit bigger. There you go. So screenshot, right? And 4 actionable steps, right, that I should focus on. And you can see the screenshot is essentially what we think you should be investing on to drive more newsletter traffic. Newsletter traffic being one of the most valuable traffic you can get. Newsletter users come more often, they stay longer, and if you have any type of reader revenue model, they are the ones more likely to subscribe or to contribute. That's how valuable they are. So if it's the most valuable type of traffic, you should prioritize getting users to sign up to your newsletters. The question being here, how do we do that? And this is why we have the following actionable recommendation. You need something like this on every single article, right? A newsletter sign up widget. And you can see this has nothing to do with Google and everything to do with you. We don't have a product for this, right? But many companies out there have a product for this. From a technical perspective, this is very simple to fix. Now, there's a couple of things you want to focus on. For example, the visibility and position. You want to position this above the fold. If it's a priority action, it should be very visible and easily discoverable across your content. You want to reduce the number of fields. Many publishers ask for first name, last name, focus on the field that matters, which is email address. You want to implement autofills. So when I tap on it or when I click on it, my email address appears directly. I don't even have to write it. So you're removing friction, improving signups. The look and feel, things like contrast, right, between the article's background and the widget background, things like using orange for conversion buttons. Orange, yellow, and red are colors that perform and convert really, really well, which is essentially why Amazon uses orange. And finally, personalizing the message. You know, there are things that are a bit better than subscribe to our newsletter that you can use essentially, once again, to create that link with your users to drive more sign up. Now, every recommendation comes with a learn more button. If you click on learn more, we'll take you to our playbook. And in the playbook, you'll see a couple of things. The first thing that you'll see is, you can see I'm under newsletter. You'll see a repetition of what we saw in the tool, a bit more context, right, on why it matters, why do newsletter matters, some comments and observation, but every recommendations come with a second page with more examples of, you know, potential ways you can do or you can act on these recommendations to drive newsletters in this particular context, and always a case study. All right, so this is the case study for WRL, and they drove plus 15% of newsletter subscribers just with a simple fix and a simple modification. Once again, I don't really have the time to show you all the recommendations. I would love to, but we're running out of it. So I really invite you to use the tool, connect your data, check what the recommendations are for you, and ideally act on them, because everything has been industry proven and industry recognized as having impact to drive engagement and revenue. I'll stop here. For those of you who are a bit more curious and like, okay, but where do your recommendations come from? Because I'm not seeing any data. Well, this is what we have, why we have the other pages, right? So if you go under reader engagements, I'm not going to cover it, but this is where you will see more data, and essentially all of the data that we have and that we've seen for every single one of the audience. So who they are, you know, what do they look like? How do they perform? Where do they come from? All of the data from News Consumer Insight is on this second page, but you can see it's the second step, right? We overskew on the actionability. If you want to see how we got there, you go to the second page, and that's where you can discover and dig and scratch the surface on how it works.
That's super interesting, guys. Thanks so much.
Please.
I wanted to jump in really with a couple of quick questions. And I think the first one is for publishers outside the news industry, is News Consumer Insights relevant to them?
I can take this one on though, if that's okay.
Go.
So we build this tool, News Consumer Insights, primarily for news publishers, because we're part of the Google News Initiative, and there was a strong need from this industry in particular. But when you look at the recommendation and the framework we've developed, we've realized that very quickly that this framework could be applied to other type of publications. As long as you're creating content on your site and you have an audience, it kind of makes sense to use this framework. You have that funnel that makes sense. When you start creating content, when you start building loyalty with your audience, you need to have that funnel mindset. So if you're not news publisher, if you're a blog, if you're a content creator, that makes sense as well. So yeah, as long as you have content, you can use that tool. You just need to have GA to make the best of it.
Excellent. And how is the ad revenue per user calculated?
So the ad revenue per user is calculated when you have Google Analytics 360. So that's the paid version of Google Analytics. You can connect Google Analytics to your Google Ad Manager account, right? So when you do so, essentially Google Analytics gets access to your ad revenue. So when you connect to the tool, if Google Analytics sees your ad revenue, so will the tool, right? But of course, that depends on having Google Analytics 360. If you don't, the tool will just adjust and show you different metrics that aim to show you the same type of insights. So we never wanted the tool to have a different experience, or at least to provide less value for publishers who are using Google Analytics 3. The value is the same, it's just the insights might differ a little bit.
Okay. Do people need to invest in any particular products to support this?
You want to take it, Val?
Yes. So as long as you have Google Analytics implemented on your site, if you have GA360 or GA, you'll be able to use the tool straight away. It means that you just need to connect with your Google Analytics account, and straight away you will see the insights and the recommendation for your publication. Now, the reports and the recommendation can be amplified if you start implementing some specific Google Analytics tags on your site. And to do so, you will have to use News Tagging Guide, which is our other tool, the tool that Anto mentioned in his intro. So to answer your question, by default, you can already access a lot of cool insights and recommendations with our reports without implementing any tags on your site. But if you want to go deeper and get more personalized recommendation, it's cool to add other tags on your site.
Okay. If there were, this is the last question that I have for you guys, but feel free, perhaps, we've got a couple of minutes extra, so if there's anything you want to add to wrap up, feel free. But what are 3 things, if people watching this session were to do 3 things tomorrow or next week to start taking advantage of News Consumer Insights, what would those 3 things be?
I'll give it a try, Val. Okay. So you're catching me. So wait, this is brainstorming at 7 o'clock in the morning. So
and quarter to 10 at night, exactly.
Yes. I would say, so the one thing is that this is all about actionability of data, right? If when you talk, if there's something that publishers have, no matter their size, is a lot of data, right? We believe that, you know, you can spend a lot of time just working on getting better data, right? We focus our time on making sure the data is actionable. So that's, I would say, this is the first thing. The second thing is the actionability itself. Is all about UX, right? So it's about creating a better experience, because a better experience will create more ad revenue and more reader revenue, subscriptions or memberships or contributions and donation. And finally, UX is just one of the things that will impact user engagement, which is, as I mentioned, user engagement is such an important topic. The backbone, as I mentioned in my introduction, what we believe a news business is, and such a bit of a niche at some point, right? You know, it's kind of the topic that we don't talk that much about. And when I mean we, I mean the industry, not necessarily just Google. So user engagement is really one of the areas where publishers should overinvest and not underinvest.
Mm-hmm. I think there is one last question I'd like to ask, if I may. And I've spent, as we heard at the beginning of the previous session, I come to India, or I did pre-COVID, quite often to work with publishers there on addressing learning needs. And I think one of the things that I've been struck by is the very broad range in, I don't want to say skill sets, I would say, you know, there's a thriving print industry, you know, so there are these amazing, huge publishers that still derive a lot of income from print. And then, of course, they're very cutting edge digital publishers, and digital first and digital only and digital born, like the Ken, you know. So you have this very broad range. But I think the sort of need, or urgent need, in the revenue space is also sitting in the older print, perhaps haven't engaged as quickly as they might with digital. How does an organization like that upskill quickly to start tapping into something like this? And perhaps you might want to think about some of the broader G&I tools that are available to them.
I can answer first. So right now there's one common thing between historical news publication, we have print business, and the newborn news business who have been born online, is the fact that they need to quickly make the best of their data and once again transform that into actionable recommendations. So the biggest advice we'll give to everyone will be, let's try to put data as a one common pillar to all type of departments. The department needs to stop working in silos, which is like a big challenge for all publishers, whether they are pure online or all organization, print organization. So it's all about like trying to find out what are the key objectives of online to achieve. And if you ask us, the key objective online to achieve is all about loyalty, reader engagement, and building reader revenue, successful reader revenue strategies. So if you agreed as an organization as a common goal that loyalty and, for example, new subscription are the 2 goals you want to achieve, how can you align your organization to work together and collaborate as much as possible just with those common goals? Because that's definitely a challenge. that we're seeing more and more across the industry. And with our tool, that's what we try to achieve, to bring those teams together and to say, hey, let's align with those common conversation points and to achieve, once again, digital sustainability. Mm-hmm. And Anto, you might have other thoughts on this?
No, completely. I mean, I completely agree. The amount of times where we work with publishers around the world, and the amount of times where we started with a very complex conversation on data, and then we simplify by saying, 90% of your users stay 40 seconds on your site. We can talk about cloud all you want, right? But the thing is, 90% of your users spend 40 seconds on your site. Why don't we simplify things a little bit and try to fix that? And I think that now more than ever is the moment to really address those issues on engagement, staying away from the volume conversation. We have millions and millions of users, and start to shift towards, right, but who's loyal here? Like, who's coming on your site, because they love your brand and because they love your values and your content. And I think that's what we've tried to simplify. Obviously, of course, once again, with the actionability on top of that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, friends, you've been listening to Antao Diaz and Valentin Cornez from Google News Consumer Insights. I've been your host, Corinne Podger, and I'm very happy to hand back to Shilpa from WAN-IFRA.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you, speakers. It was a wonderful session, like all the other sessions we have had today. With that, we come to the end of day one. I hope everybody had a great session, a great time here, and got some great insights to take back home with you. But more is awaiting us tomorrow, so join us back, everyone, tomorrow. And I conclude it here on behalf of WAN-IFRA. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.